You know, every election cycle, we talk about this is the most election of our lifetime.
Huh?
You know, every election cycle, we talk about this is the most election of our lifetime. Lawrence, this one is. This one is. This is probably the most significant election of our lifetime. You know, we have said it every 4 years, but this here one is it.
As you have heard, this is the most important and completely seriously serious election of our lifetimes. Even on the day of this video's making, Kamala Harris has said on X, "This is not 2016 or 2020. The stakes are even higher because a few months ago, the Supreme Court told Donald Trump he is effectively immune from whatever he does in office. So much is on the line with only 26 days left to vote. Make your plan. iwillvote.com." So if there is really this much at stake, and if the stakes are really that dire, then what has the Harris-Walz campaign lately been doing to reflect that? Ah, yes, the Call Her Daddy podcast. Because I'm sure when it comes to the seriousness of what rights women have in our country, of course, the thing that comes to all of our minds is how this discussion should be framed and platformed within the seriousness of the Call Her Daddy podcast.
I'm curious, like, you don't do too many long form interviews. What made you want to do Call Her Daddy today?
Well, I think you and your listeners have really got this thing right.
How do you work with the balls and the asshole
Okay,
on a
so
man?
Which is one of the best ways to communicate with people is to be real, you know, and to talk about the things that people really care about. What I love about what you do is that your voice and your show is really about your listeners.
And it's so interesting to always see like the difference in the balls.
And I think especially now, this is a moment in the country and in life where people really want to know they're seen and heard.
I don't know if this is every guy, but he has something that we call like morning balls.
And that they're part of a community, that they're not out there alone. And so I'm really glad to be with you.
It wasn't long after this aired that backlash against Harris and the podcast began to materialize online in the comment sections. Love your podcast, Alex. However, this isn't it. Disappointed. How can we praise a VP running for president that has done so much wrong and continues to do so much wrong and people still think she deserves to be president? People wake up. If you have kids and want them to have a better future and still vote for her, you are the problem. All while North Carolina is underwater and destroyed. I'm so disappointed. Thousands are dying in North Carolina and this is what she's doing. And this is where I never watch again. I don't think someone who just signed a $125 million deal really has the right judgment to be discussing the current state of the world right now. For her to even go on a podcast like this is wild. She has declined multiple interviews with strong individuals in politics and goes on this podcast. This is absolutely embarrassing. That's insanely inappropriate for a VP even if there wasn't a natural disaster. And it just goes on like this across almost all platforms. But that's not the only interview she's done lately. She also did an interview with Stephen Colbert. And of course, with so much at stake in the most important and serious election of our lifetime, and while many Americans are still struggling to get by, Stephen Colbert asks the question that's on all of our minds. What's it like to have a beer with Kamala Harris?
So would you like to have a beer with me so I can tell people what that's like? Okay. This was, now we asked ahead of time because I can't just be giving a drink to the Vice President of the United States without asking. You asked for Miller High Life. You so
okay,
cheers. There
cheers.
You go. There you go. Ooh.
Never mind all of the Americans still struggling with alcoholism from the COVID lockdowns, we all just want to have a beer with Kamala, right? I mean, I know democracy itself is allegedly at stake here, but I think it's very important to note that Miller High Life is indeed the champagne of beers.
That tastes like the beautiful city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Champagne of beers.
There you go.
See? This is a woman that's clearly keen on what's at stake in this election. Her VP running mate Tim Walz is equally serious about all of this. As the most significant election of our lifetime, Tim Walz knows that his campaign with Harris to beat Trump is not a game. You see, that's why the Harris-Walz campaign had a World of Warcraft streamer stream live while Tim Walz was doing the important campaign rallying. Clearly, this is the guy that doesn't play around when it comes to serious elections that threaten our democracy.
GOP is the opposite of POG, and we are here to POG out.
You see, he lets the streamer play around for him. Smart.
So now, chat, you have to promise me you're going to go to iwillvote.com.
And sure, Tim Walz might have lied about his military service amongst other things, but it's pretty obvious that he's seen as a serious man of valor.
But yeah, if Tim Walz were to play WoW, what class would he play? What do you think, chat? I'm thinking Warrior. Yeah. If I had to guess. Prot Warrior? Yeah. The Happy Warrior. Yeah, he gives that vibe. I think so. Let's check the talents real quick. Need to make sure you're prepared. Just like you need to prepare to vote on November 5th.
For fuck's sake, I'm sorry. This is just the most unserious, serious election of our lifetimes. Thanks for watching.